All right, everybody, thank you for joining us today. This is Joel Silverman on the Montana Business Vlog, where we connect small business owners across this great country of ours. So we're here today with small business owner Al Swanson.
Thank you, sir.
Al,
nice to be here.
I don't know about everybody else, but if they aren't excited for this one today, then they are just sadly mistaken, because this one has had me hooked for months since we started the conversation of how we're going to make today happen. Because you bring together a unique, certain proposition in business, which is connecting an artist to a business. And I believe that the artists struggle the most to get outside of the artist mind and into the business mind. And for all our artist fans out there, I hope they're watching this, because you have done it in such a unique way, and you strive and excel at it. And in this new great facility that you just opened recently, wow. I mean, you must walk into work every day just pinching yourself thinking, yeah, what a journey.
Absolutely. When you love what you do, walking in and turning on the lights and getting your coffee going and warming the machines up is just, and what am I going to create today? I couldn't ask for a better feeling. And hopefully people get that when they go to work. I know my dad sure didn't. You know, I remember him telling me every day, I just don't want to go to work today. And I'm like, God, I don't want to be that way. You know, and sometimes it is just a job. But boy, if you've got a choice to make what you love your job, everybody wins.
I hate the saying, oh, I just have a case of the Mondays. I get to wake up like you. And most people say, you're a lawyer. How do you wake up and have that energy? I have the energy because I have an unbelievable team around me. Mm-hmm. People who I walk in, and if I'm down, they're up and they're dragging me up to be at their level. Mm-hmm. I mean, you developed this early on age of love of art, of woodworking. How did you come about this? Tell us a little bit of your youth story that was so great. You were telling me off camera. And then getting to Helena, then what got you to small town Montana? You
know, growing up in northern New England on a big farm with lots of brothers and sisters, and we grew our own vegetables and raised our own beef and cut our own trees, and we're a very self-sustaining, close-knit family in the middle of nowhere. And just, I think that's where the work ethic really came in at a really early age. There was no such thing as a Friday. It was, you're always working the farm, and the friends are off on the beach, and you're in the hay fields like, I don't know about this. But it developed a work ethic. And from the work ethic, I developed this innate sense of, I just love to create. I love to work with wood. I love to dabble in my dad's shop in the barn that he didn't really even know about, you know, because he'd be ticked if he knew. But I did it, and it came very natural. The artistry just came very natural, and I love to doodle and draw and sculpt and all these things at an early age, without any clue that how could you possibly make that into a profession? I don't even know if there were woodworking schools back then. There are plenty of them now, and that really wasn't an option. And in fact, it was probably more discouraged, especially in like the high school level. You can take shop class. I never took it. I took business classes instead, because this wasn't supposed to be a business, but I just fell in love with doing this, and it came real natural. I mean, I think, you know, any artist that's really excelled at their craft didn't just buy a video and a book when they were 13 and decide, I'm going to do this. That helps, but they're born with something that is just this little devil saying, you're really good at this. So stick with it, man. You know, stick with it. And I just did and kept buying another piece of equipment and would make a Christmas gift for someone, and they're like, wow, this is really cool. You could maybe make some money at this. I'm like, okay, let's give it a shot. And eventually built a pretty good little business in Maine, and then had some family come to Montana in the late 90s. I decided I'm going to come visit my sister and brother and things like that here, and thought, wow, this place is a lot like Maine with no ocean, and it's just really cool. But saw an opportunity. I really did see an opportunity for a high-end furniture maker to maybe an impact here. And eventually, June of 2000, I packed up my truck with a couple of stools that I'd finished, every piece of equipment I had, and hit the road without really a place to stay, without a shop, without a client, without anything. And landed here, and with a lot of tenacity, a lot of grit, a lot of passion, a lot of ups and downs. Here we are today.
What made you pick Helena as a locale versus Bozeman or Missoula or Kalispell or Three Forks?
It's a great question. I mean, you know, I think logistically it's where my siblings were near here. That's where I would come, and I visited Helena several times and got to know you know the different restaurants and all. And I just thought it's a neat town, and I didn't spend a lot of time elsewhere. But I also realized in the business world of it, Helena is so centrally located that Bozeman's not far, Great Falls is not far, Missoula's not far. I don't know. I just really fell in love with the community of Helena and the people in the community. And it didn't take long for those people to recognize my craft and say, we want this, and we want this, and we want this. And then eventually, why go anywhere else? You're home. I can build tables and chairs all day. But who's going to know about them? Who in Oklahoma, Butte, Sweden, how are they going to know about me? I think I really just excelled in the promotion element of it, the marketing element of it, got involved with some people, a great team early on, graphic designers, Amy that lives in town, we worked great with, to develop a brand. And I remember specifically sitting with her about 15 years ago, or more than that, 18 years ago, about you got to develop a name for your company. Like, no, it's my name. It's not, Ralph Lauren fine clothing. It's just Ralph Lauren. Because I don't know what products I'm going to offer down the line, but it's everything that I'm going to do is going to be of the highest quality, period. And I want that name to be affiliated with it, and we're going to push and make that name a brand. And we've done it. I mean, it took years and years and years, but it's that marketing, promotion, knowing how to work with your finances, that's a real uphill climb for a lot of people, especially an artist. I mean, artists, you just want to come in and work. You just want to create. You want to do your thing and not really worry about the rest. But you have to worry about all of it. And that's what separates the wheat from the chaff of what will put someone else just a little further ahead, if you will. And it's real easy to get behind.
So when we were off camera, you were telling me about some of your artist mentors, your woodworking mentors. But I want to spin this because you also raised something that you had a connection with a local business owner that you were leaning on, and you were spitballing with each other about business aspects. Who were some of your business mentors? How did you lean into them or local business owners to say, hey, I need to be better educated, I need to work with other business owners?
No question, because you can't get all of that knowledge on your own. You can't get it on a video. You can't get it in school. You've got to put yourself out there. And I just made it a real point to put myself in the company of some pretty bright people in Helena, whether it's my friend Dick Anderson or Al Nicholson. Siobhan Hastings is a great example of who early on in her early days, we would sit over beers and spitball about how we're going to take over the world and market our things. And I don't know if we've taken over the world, but it's that energy too that you get from these people that many of them have done this. They've done it from the ground up, so they've got an edge. And I want to listen. You got to be a listener. You can't just talk all the time. And it was great to sit with Shalon, and we do it to this day. And we'll still spitball ideas, and it's just, you come away like you're just fired up. You don't really know exactly what to do, but that's where your smarts have to kick in and work with other people to really put you on that path.
So every business owner, big or small, they hit obstacles. Sometimes almost want to call them soul-crushing obstacles, things that just hit you, you stumble from it, you don't know what to do with it. What are one or a couple of examples? How'd you get over those hurdles? help you to grow, because you're clearly a growth-minded person? How did it help you grow to be better in art and business?
Well, I think 2007, 2008 was a pretty distinctive period in the country's history that affected a lot of people. And at that particular time, we had, taken the work that I was building then in Helena for the first few years and opened up a gallery on the Walking Mall where people could then touch it, feel it, pet it, open the drawers, smell it, really understand this is not easy to make. This is the real deal here. And we developed a great relationship with a lot of local and regional artists and had them on the walls and represented them, and it was wonderful. And then 2007-8 came along, and discretionary spending just went, it just pretty much stopped. So you talk about an obstacle. That was a distinctive obstacle that where it's like, well, the cash flow just kind of dried up, but the bills don't. It's funny how that works. And so I decided, well, gosh, what do I do? How do we morph out of this? I think something really cool can always come from when you're put into a bad spot. If you're pretty clever, you can dig your way out and be better for it. So I thought, well, rather than people buying the product, let's teach them the process. So sat down and developed. I have no teaching degree. I've never taught, but I know what I'm doing when it comes to this. I thought, I'm going to start teaching woodworking classes, because I'll bet you people will pay for an experience before they'll pay for just the table. Nice little experiment that was a home run, and to this day still do it. And that really, really carried us through some pretty difficult times. And from that, was able to meet some new awesome employees that I probably would have never met, that just happened to be here, paying me to teach them to work. And then we flipped scenarios, now I'm paying them to work for me. And through that, met some just awesome people. And there's dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of Helenans and people even around that have pieces that they built with me in the studio. They signed it. We made a little hidden compartment. They put a little note. And it wasn't designed for like a woodworker to be a better woodworker. This was just about having a weekend where you can have an awesome time. And whether you're a lawyer, a janitor, a doctor, had them all. And no experience was the best, because they left like, this is so cool. This is so cool that I made this. That was threw a dart and it worked, but it turned out that I was pretty good at it. That doesn't hurt. When you're good at something, it also, it really helps the bottom line. So that's probably been the biggest hurdle to date. Definitely moving into a new facility, as we just did in the last few months. Never doing it again. This is it. This is it.
I've only said that 3 times,
well,
by the way.
Maybe this place will get bigger. I hope we can grow and make it bigger. But moving all of this, just the equipment, the renovation, and as an artist, I was in a place for 10 years, and you get really accustomed to where everything is. And everything here is a little different. The colors are different. The lighting's different. The location's different. That takes months to get your mind wrapped around the flow, because you've got to produce, or this just doesn't work. So
you bring up moving. Moving is my dreaded, disdainful thing in life. Moved a lot when I was a kid, and that's what it comes from. So when I had to move my office 3 times, it was just like, I just want to stick my head in the sand. You've had some unbelievable obstacles, though, when you had to move this last time. Tell us about those, how you got over them, and how you kept yourself psyched to keep things moving forward the right way.
Well, I think, timing is never perfect. The timing with this was not perfect at all. We were approaching the busiest time of this shop's annual deal, is always a few months before Christmas, and that's just happened to be when we had to be out of the other place and had to get in here. But trying to find a commercial building in Helena was a serious challenge. That was the fit, that was right. It was things that I had looked at were either too big, too small, wrong location. stumbled upon this place and was like, wow, I love the vibe. I love the location. This is going to work. But it took a tremendous amount of work from a lot of contractors, a lot of friends, a lot of people had to team in and do a significant electrical upgrade, lighting upgrade, heating upgrade, the whole bit. And when it came right down to it, we lost about 2 months of production time to make the transition. And that's not something you really want to do going into the busiest time of the year. That was a real hurdle. Getting the adequate power that we needed was a real hurdle, but you get it done, you know, and you just then wake up at a new place with a much thinner wallet and but still that psych to come get it done. I just can't wait to get in and now put it to use. And we didn't really have time to put up all the shelves that I needed and paint the bathroom. You know, some of the things just are gonna have to wait. But the basics, we got them in, got them done, and love it. Absolutely love it here, and plan to be here for quite a while.
Excellent. Well, I know we're going to be coming back in a few years to interview you again and see where you're at then.
Let's
and
hope.
It's going to be interesting to see how this shop evolves, because you've done a wonderful job on such a short window or time frame. You and I were supposed to be doing this interview a month
right.
ago, and I was just laughing because when I got your text, I just really was laughing hard about it, because I was like, I know you're stressed out.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe you booked it for a December interview to begin with.
Well, and that's part of the, you know, the great thing about being that artist business person is like, you don't ever want to say no. You think you can tackle the world, you can do it all. But eventually it's like, you know, especially when you're self-employed, it doesn't matter which half of the day you work. There's 24 hours in the day. Now you just pick the half or spread it out or do whatever you want to do. Fortunately for us, it's like, I love coming here. So if I'm sitting at home and it's winter and it's crappy out, I'm gonna come work. Mm-hmm. You know what? Because I love it. I'm making something that somebody is gonna get for Christmas and open up and be like, I've never seen anything like this. And then they call you from Virginia and you've never met them, you might not ever meet them, to compliment you. And the fact that you answered the phone, not a secretary, if you will, or somebody that just works for you. They're like, am I talking to the guy that made this? This is you, right? I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I answer the phone and clean the toilets and we do it all. That's just what you do. But when you love it, it's not really a job, you know?
How do you find that passion every day to love what you do instead of it becoming a job?
You know, Joel, there are days that it's a job, and you've got to just get stuff done. But when you love doing it, you just forget about that it's really a job. But the hard part with the business side of this whole thing is managing, because I don't have anybody telling me you've got to be here at 7, at 8, at noon. You take a break from 1 to 2. I don't have that. It's up to me and the schedule and the amount of work that we have to do to get it done. It doesn't matter when you do it. So there'll be times when I'm like, I just want to go back because I love I'm working with a new wood and I love the smell. I just want to go back and work with it. Or I just want to go in and sharpen those chisels because I like the environment. I want to do it. I enjoy it. And it leads me to the end of the job got done. You know, and again, definitely losing those 2 months and the move and all that put us pretty far behind for the Christmas season, but we just get through it and have a great team that helps me out, and you can count on them, you can rely on them, and they love coming in here and doing it, you know, and it's always been a fringe benefit to anybody that works for me is you've got full use of this shop, and they're like, seriously? Because this is pretty state-of-the-art stuff, and to have it at your fingertips, it's pretty cool.
Well, I love that little story because action is what gets momentum. Momentum is what gets you over the mountain, right?
That's exactly right.
And if you don't start, if you don't get off the couch, if you don't get out of your chair, if you don't get moving, get started, you're never going to get, beyond.
You just got to put in the time.
Yeah.
And there is only so much time in a day, and one can only do so much. But that is why I've kept this business pretty small, pretty boutique, The products are not mass produced. They're not in every store across the country. They're really only they're pretty select places, because there are outlets everywhere that I could spend 40 hours a week working and another 40 hours a week scheming of, now where's the next place we want to put this stuff? Or do I want to go to a trade show, or keep that momentum rolling? It's limitless. But one of the things that I was very careful with, especially going into when I started making the fishing gear, is this stuff needs to be special. It's not going to be everywhere. It's not going to be at every fly shop in every city. It's not going to be probably at Bass Pro and Cabela's, no offense, but it's just not. You can only make so much. And when you start making too much, where does the quality, that ebb and flow? So to me, where we are is just pretty perfect. And you creep it up in incremental amounts. I've seen too many companies bite off way more than they can chew, go into some serious debt, whatever, and they just get underwater too fast. And it's great to think that way. It doesn't always work. So keeping it small and keeping it boutique is really cool. And the customer loves that. They love that I hand sign every single piece, regardless. And I've had employees say, well, why don't you get a stamp? Because when you're not here or whatever, we can just stamp your name. And I'm like, you just said that? No. There's something about a maker's mark. A real artist does not take a burning branding iron and psh. That's just not. I wasn't taught that way. I think that separates the real from the not.
Well, and it is your brand, right? That's the thing about an artist, is this is your brand, is you, right? And when you develop that, you have to develop it in your model. I see so many different businesses out there just bouncing from one model to the next, never settling on who's their ideal customer, how are they going to service that ideal customer better than anybody else, and in a way that fits them as a person.
Correct.
Right?
And it's so easy to keep trying to get, and it's a challenge, and it's a cool challenge to try to win the challenge, to get new customers. Get new customers. But you know what? It's a lot easier and a lot less expensive to just take care of the ones you've already gotten. And then they'll talk good things about you, and then you organically get new ones that become old ones. And you just take care of them. And you just got to stick to your guns to that. And if you do, you're going to be fine. There's that fine balance and that's why we came up with the fishing gear, is because now all of a sudden we can get that product that's built with the exact same underlying quality as a dining room table. Same signature, same methods, same integrity goes into it. But it's way more affordable, and we can make it fairly quick and ship it to New Zealand and have it there in 2 weeks. So that makes the world your market, it opens up so many other doors and so many other challenges, because nothing's easy. But that balancing act of keeping your local people happy, and keeping all those people that have bought work from you in the past happy. And I see it especially around holidays. I'll get an order and I'm like, I know that name. I know her name or his name. I just recognize it from one of the many thousands from the year before or the year before that. And to me, I think that's one of the levels of success, is that you're getting all these repeat customers and not just baskets of new ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And it's always easier to sell to a customer you have versus sell to somebody who doesn't know who you are.
Yeah, because it takes an incredible amount of, I remember somebody asking me a long time ago, what's your marketing budget? I'm like, what? What's that? It's whatever. I'm like, I don't know. How much do I have in my wallet? I don't know. You have to figure that out and figure out what works for you. It's really difficult and expensive. To do the ads and the promotions to get that new person. You can't stop doing that. But all I have to do is send an email to 400, 500 previous customers and get 300 of them to respond. And that didn't cost a penny. That's where the marketing budget is a smart play, you know, because we don't have tens of thousands of dollars to throw around doing that. You do what it takes. And sometimes it's just time, it's grit, it's getting out there, meeting people, and then once you've cemented it, hold on to it and nurse it and keep it real, because it's there for you.
So let's talk about that right there, what you were just leading into. You've been working with the Orvis company. They're a worldwide organization, fishing primarily, but they also do hunting. How did you connect with them, and how did you develop that and nurture that relationship to get them really promoting your products around the world?
Yeah, I mean, it really was a complete fluke, experimental accident, if you will. And that's when I think a lot of really cool things in this world come about, is that you threw a dart and you went outside the box, if you will. And again, when we were in the Great Northern Town Center and had our showroom, we had the Best Western Premier Hotel was across the way. And I'd be out sweeping every morning and see drift boat after drift boat come in with guides picking up their clients. Helena is a mecca for fly fishing. It's just what it is. And I'm thinking, I need those people to buy my stuff. But the challenge to get Mr. and Mrs. Smith or whatever that come out in their brand new waders and brand new rods, and they're gonna go spend the day on the Missouri, they can afford it. They're having fun, they're probably retired, you know, they're doing their thing, but are they gonna walk over and buy a dining room chair, table, stool? Probably not. Maybe, but probably not. And it's like, how do I get them? How do I get that person? And thought, a wooden fly box would be something cool. I had never made one in my life. I had no clue, because you're used to these little plastic and steel ones. You know, I'd never really seen a super high quality one. And I just Googled it, like wooden fly box, and tons of people making them all over the place. And so how do you take something that's already made and make it better? Well, the plus that I had was I'd already built a reputation with my name, and that it's probably gonna be good if he did it. So long story short, meaning another friend of mine that was working for me, we just dabbled and I literally took an iPhone and thought, I wanna have this box that's just sleek. There's no hinges that are exposed. It's because I fish and you wanna be able to get it in and out. Are people gonna use it? Are they just gonna look at it? 50-50, who knows really. But we started developing it and whipped one out by hand. It took like a day. And I'm like, okay, I can't sell these for $1,000 a piece. So how do we do this? How do we get this figured out? And a friend of mine had this small CNC machine, a computer numerically controlled router, which has been in the woodworking industry for a long time. And we were able to take that design and essentially put it into a CAD program and draw it and tweak it. And then because you're starting to now deal with, okay, you gotta have hinges. Well, what ones do you use and what are the best and how do you keep it shut? I mean, we went through a year of like R&D just to figure this out. Finally, using this computerized cutting machine and lots of skill and lots of throwaways. I mean, it's like the scene in The Patriot. Mel Gibson's making a rocking chair. And there's a pile of them. Well, there was a pile of these things too, because it just had to be perfect. But I would take that box to other people and say, what do you think? Okay, you gotta do this. Okay, I'm listening. What do you gotta do to this thing? And got to the point where I made two of them, a walnut one and a maple one. And I thought, man, these are great. These are perfect, this is it. But how do you market them? I said, well, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call one the Blackfoot, and I'm gonna call one the Missouri. They're iconic Montana rivers that has a resonance out there, period. And it turns out that I had two, that's it. And I'm not gonna go to the fly shops. I hadn't sold one, no one had ever really seen them. And fortunately, years and years prior, I had this guy walked into the shop, he's a fishing guide, and had a broken dip net and asked me to fix it. I'm like, that's not really what I do, but I said it was his dad's and then his granddad's and his dad, and so it had some nostalgia there, and so I fixed it for him, and off it went, and we hit it off, and it turns out that's Simon Perkins, whose family owns the Orvis company, and so we had an instant, like, pay it forward kind of connection. And he was living in Montana at the time, eventually went back and was working for the company, and I had these 2 boxes, and I called him up and said, "You remember me?" "Oh, yeah." "Well, I've got something you might want to see." No one had ever seen these, and I go to the biggest company on the planet first, thinking they're probably going to say, "I don't think so." But he had seen my work. So he's like, "The vetting process is already kind of behind you, so just send them in, no promises." Well, they eventually put them through a line review. All the execs put their eyes on it. They had a great backstory, the names of them, made by a dude in Montana. It just had the perfect bucket of ingredients wrapped around it. It wasn't, and I swear to God, if I was living in Chicago, that probably wouldn't have worked. It was because we were here, in this fly fishing place that, and the Perkins family have homes here, and they love it here. And that's what really got the momentum going. And so when I sold them on that pitch, they said, "How many can you make? Because we want to feature you in our gift catalog that coming fall," which is a huge deal. And I'm like, "I've made 2, and you have them both, and don't lose them." And so they did. We had photography, and we got busy. We changed the whole business model. Changed. I mean, it went from making tables and chairs to pounding out these awesome boxes, and made, I don't know, 400 or 500. And the catalog came out, and they were sold in the first day. Just gone.
Wow.
I'm like, got to raise the price. You know, and so anyway, that relationship just built and built and built, and now we're going on, I think, 5th or 6th year, and it's especially for about 6 months of the year, that's all we do, is make products for them, personalized products, the fly fishing tubes, the boxes, and I only give them, you know, a few. You know, they don't have a huge assortment, just to keep it simple. They like to keep it simple. But it's an awesome working relationship with this, you know, I've got, it's like this family that I've never met, that you email and you talk to, and sometimes everything's going perfect, sometimes it isn't, you know, but you just roll with it. It's a challenge. I mean, it's a challenge to not only make the product kind of en masse and keep the quality still perfect, but all of the business end of it. Like, I remember early on getting this compliance manual that was like that thick. Like, I can see why nobody wants to do this, because this is an arduous, all these things you need to do to comply with all these regulations and things, working with a large company. It's pretty easy to just say, "I don't think so. I just want to be the artist that just goes to work." Well, I was up for the challenge, and we nailed it, and I don't see this relationship really ending. And in fact, we're talking right now about, I mean, we've been talking for the last month about next gift season, next fall, and where they're actually wanting me, they're now like, "Okay, we'll keep the small products going because people love them. They're affordable. They're awesome gifts. But we also see that you can make some pretty awesome stuff." And so we're probably going to feature a very high-end limited edition of maybe 4 or 5 fly tying desks that will be, you know, pre-orders only, pretty expensive most likely, but the real deal. And there are people out there that I'll probably make 4, and they'll pre-sell, and it'll be a total home run. So just that puts me back into, I'm making furniture again, you know. And so, but you got to be nimble.
Yeah.
You got to be nimble, and we just love to do it all. And folks have asked, "Well, don't you get sick of making those boxes all day long?" No, it's actually pretty cool. It's pretty fun, and it's really hard. It's not easy. Or I'll get guff that, "Oh, you've bought this computerized equipment. There's no talent in that. You come run it." There's nothing easy about it. Especially, that machine will do exactly what you tell it to do, even if it's wrong. And it'll let you know it in a hurry. It'll let you know it. So the precision is still, my whole goal though, Joel, was you can take a cool little fly box or a chair. Same dude made it. You just know it. And living in Helena now almost 20 years, I run into people that I don't know. I've just met them. They're like, they'll hear my name and, oh yeah, I was in so-and-so's house. I knew that was your piece. There's just something, this aesthetic that you've created that you know that he did that.
Yeah.
If it's the inlay strip, if it's it's just, that's pretty cool. That, and when you hear that back, it tells you did something right.
Yeah.
You know, mainly you made their house a home with a beautiful piece. You made their fly vest way different than anybody else's with that in it. Walking through the airport with that fly rod case, you're not gonna look like the other guy with the aluminum one. It's gonna stand out. And to me, the pride that I get to play a role in that I made it, and the fact that that fella or woman is walking down the tarmac with the unbelievable pride that they're carrying it, how do you beat that? So that's what makes the job not really a job. It's so satisfying to know you didn't just do something, you made something, and something that someone's going to cherish and give to their kids for the rest of their lives. And it's pretty cool.
I love the passion. And now I'm going to get us back into the business world a little deeper here, because I not only hear this from business people, but I really hear it from artists. Whether I'm coaching them or just having a conversation with my artist friends, how do you know the price? Because you brought up before, you said they sold out so fast, so I knew I had to raise price, because nobody wants to talk about price. Oh, money, the bad thing. But what in your mind said I wasn't charging enough?
A couple things. I mean, it's real easy to just do the work, regardless of the quantities, whatever. But when you're doing more production-oriented things, where you're not making one piece at a time. Like when I was making, if you said I want a dining room table, I pretty much know how many hours are going to be in it. I pretty much know what I need to get per hour, and the materials. It's pretty cut and dry. The production world is a whole different beast, because you're making so many in a given week, if you will, that one little thing that you missed, you multiply by 100, can sink you. And so I think when I mentioned that, got to raise the price, well, that's a knee-jerk automatic reaction of, well, if things are selling so fast, that means people are willing to pay more.
Yeah.
I just know that. But also, you've got to really be on the ball with, what does this stuff cost you? What is your cost of goods sold? What is the cost of production? What is the cost of packaging? What is the cost of marketing? That all plays a distinctive role in, here is what I need to get for this piece. Well, then you're going to wholesale that piece, and the retail price ends up being much different than that. Everybody has to make a little along the way. And that is not an easy thing to do, because you can't just throw a dart. It's, you can use research, you can look up other products. Working with the Orvis company is great, because they have teams of people that's all they do, or study demographics. They study the market, and you can use them as a sounding board too, of like, the market will only bear, especially when a new product comes out. You had that initial price. That is a bit of a dart. Year two, though, you can adjust it right away. These boxes, year one, they were $109 retail. Now they're $159, and they're going to keep going. And because frankly, I think people that'll spend $159 will spend $189, $179, and that isn't just so that we can line our pockets with more money. It's about, if we can get more for it, we can do more to make it better. We can do more to promote it in other areas that maybe we couldn't. And it gives you a little bit of breathing room, because there's nothing worse than working for free. There's just nothing worse. And I do a tremendous amount of donation pieces, and I think you can bear witness to that. I think you have one in your home.
We are fortunate.
And that takes time and talent. But that's because I love this community of Helena and can do it and can't necessarily just write the check. Here's how I'm going to help Prickly Pear Land Trust and the Holter Museum. Here's how I can do it. And it makes a difference, and it makes you feel good, and it shows you what this community is all about. But then you still have to go back and be the business guy that has to still pay the rent, pay the mortgage, pay the bills, make sure all your vendors, can I buy those hinges somewhere else a little bit better? Because even at a penny a piece, boy, does that add up. It really adds up. And I just learned recently that this tiny little brass screws that I use to hold the snap onto the rod case, there's 14,400 left in the country, period. They're just not making them anymore for a number of different reasons. And I'm like, I got to buy them all. But it's like $500. It's not a lot of money. But it's like, but when you find a deal on whether it's lumber, so you got to be on the ball with your vendors. How can I, and manage your cash flow so you can afford to do it. And working wholesale is a challenge, but you couldn't pay for the exposure that I've gotten through Orvis, and particularly when they put your face on the cover of a magazine. It's hard to pay for that.
Yeah.
It's really hard to pay for that. So to me, my marketing budget is doing a wholesale deal, and they're the marketing. That's what they do, and they do it very, very well.
Absolutely. So, and I just want to make sure everybody who's watching this, listening to this, working for free is different than donating to an organization. Like you said, I was glad you brought that up because I wanted to get to that. You do an unbelievable job of working with the nonprofits in Helena. My wife works for Prickly Pear Land Trust. The project you did for them was really unique, and I think it built a lot of credibility for you at the time. What made you do the project, the Prickly Pear Creek project, which my wife was fortunate enough to put together on behalf of Prickly Pear Land Trust? What made you say, I love the wood that's out there in those old barns. I want to take that wood. I'm going to build this table and chairs out of it and make something truly unique here for them? Well,
I think the coolest part of that project all that many years ago was that it was my friend Bob Morgan's childhood home. So everything has a story. And when the wood has a provenance, when there's a story behind it, it just elevates the piece. Otherwise, it's just a piece of wood. So that particular project, I knew Bob well, went out, saw the dilapidated buildings and thought, now this is just the ugliest barn full of nails. It's just awful stuff, but man, it's got a history. It's been out in this valley since God knows when. And it was Bob's home, and then it just gets the creative wheels going. Like, how can I take this old stuff and repurpose it into a very modern style of dining table and chairs that I currently make? And did it, and brought that stuff into the shop, and it stunk. I mean, it was just, it was punk. It was hard to work with. There's nothing easy about it, but it's like you figure it out. You just figure it out, but knew that I had to make something special for, especially with that particular year and every year. That there's always a story around, and even just this last year when I went out with Mary Hollow and walked 7 Mile Creek in this restoration project, I'm like, this is unbelievable. I don't know how many people don't really know about this.
Yeah.
And I saw these switchbacks that they brought the creek back to the way it used to be. And I thought, I'm going to make a piece that has that in it. I didn't know how or what or why, where, or when, but did it, had it in the auction. It sold well, and somebody that received it is incredibly thrilled. But not just because it's a piece, because of the story. My father passed away a number of years ago and had this old sawmill. When we were kids, we would cut lumber off our property in Maine, and he'd stashed it. And after he passed away, I went back and found this cache of wood, oak, and nothing like dollar value, but intrinsic value to me, with writing on the ends of the boards of the date that it was cut, and the video that I had of when I was 12 and we were doing it together, and there are those boards. And I can't wait. Now they're in my garage in Helena, just waiting to become something. And I do have a big show coming up this next year at the Holter Museum, which is going to be a really big deal. That wood will come out. It's going to find a home into a new piece. I don't know what that pieces are going to be yet. But see, that's what makes, and there's no business in that. There's no business sense at all. I don't care what it takes. I'll work all day and all night because I've got wood that has a story. It was my dad's. I mean, and all these years I found that that's what really makes a piece different. That this is where this came from. This is what part of the country it grew in. It's got a story. Tell it. And if you tell it well, it sells itself.
Well, your unique story led to a meeting recently, right, with Linda McMahon.
Correct.
Tell us about that, how that came about. What has that done for you? You know, what'd you learn from her? And
it was a really interesting experience because we were literally still moving in and we're just painting and rearranging and like, oh my gosh, we need to get to work. And then my friend Wayne Gardella that runs a local SBA, or state of Montana SBA, said, look, hey Al, this gal would like to come. She's coming visiting every state, a couple businesses in each state, and she's selected yours. She's the administrator for the SBA. Would you mind coming and hosting her for a little visit? And I thought, I've done tons of that kind of a thing here and love to bring in classrooms of kids and give tours to people because they find it pretty fascinating, and I love to talk about it. And I said, sure, you know, I guess, but I didn't really know who she was. I didn't, and then, oh my, that's Linda McMahon. You know, she's WWE superstar, you know, Vince's wife, and this is really different. Yeah, this is gonna be cool. So that was also an impetus to just get this place done and make it look good, because we had a date, and the security team came the week before to sweep the place, make sure everything was cool. And I'm like, this is a big deal. And she walked in, I had no idea really what to expect, other than they were gonna talk about SBA stuff. And I was gonna answer questions. And she just immediately walked over to this, that's a CNC machine. That is so cool. What do you do with that? Picked up a fly block. There was no discussion of the script. There was no scripted discussion. That went out the window because she was so enthralled with, you make these things here? How do you do it? Where's your warehouse? She was more intrigued than anybody else in the room. And then we just talked about it, the process. And she was absolutely fascinated and made it very clear when she was on camera doing some interviews afterwards that owning a small business, it's very hard. And she'd go, isn't it, Al? I go, yeah. It is. And there's no such thing as an 8-hour workday. There is no such thing as a Friday. It's just, Friday's just another day. Yeah. You know? And it's just a prelude to Saturday, which is another work day. And, you know, you take a break when you have to, but she was just, I was really inspired that she really cared about what we did here in Helena, and that we're touching people all over the world with things we're making. And she couldn't get her head around, how do you do it? How are you possibly making this work? Well, you just work hard and get it done. And at the end of the day, she left and bought a fly box to give to her husband, and she just couldn't wait. We had her sanding some pieces. She loved it. That was really cool for me to have someone that excited and not just asking random generic questions. And I don't know if I'll ever meet the woman again. It doesn't matter. But, you know, my son took the day off school because he loves wrestling, and she met him, and he was red as a beet, you know, but she gave him a big bear hug and signed the thing for him, and he was just like, this is so cool. Right here, you know, and how lucky are we? So that tells me at the end of the day, I must have done something right to get on their radar. And that's just it. I didn't cold call them. I got on their radar from the merits.
You've had all this attention, the demand is driving up, Orvis is probably clamoring for more of your product because they're a machine that, like any other retail business, saying, hey, we will sell as much of your product as a customer will consume.
Pretty much.
Right? How do you deal with that ever-increasing demand?
Again, it's a challenge. I mean, it's like anything else. It's a challenge, but you also have to be careful. Be careful you don't overcommit. Be careful you don't undercommit. And we have to balance things from year to year. And the products, the amount of sales that occur are great, and they vary from year to year, depending on the environmental climate, depending on so many different factors, which is why each year, and especially like now, you know, we got a great group of products and we ran the same ones for a couple, 2-3 years. All right, let's get something new. Now we're working on a fly box that's more driven towards women in fly fishing. It's been huge, but is now becoming heavily recognized in the industry. So yes. I said, I really want to make a box. People just love little wooden boxes. They just love them. But I want to do one that's really now designed and catering towards the female receiver, buyer, the design a little bit more female aesthetic, if you will. And that's exciting because they're like, oh yeah, I want that. You're going to put a damselfly on that? Oh yeah, totally. I want to see that. So I'm still designing it. They haven't seen it yet. But the challenge is, keeping up with the demand, that the work they've already ordered, but also they're always thinking ahead of next year. They're always thinking ahead. We're always thinking ahead. What's the next new thing? Can you do this? Can you do that? Sure. And then you start talking about costs, and you start talking about, well, the packaging, the logistics, maybe that just won't work. But regardless of what that product is, I think I've reached a point with them that if it's got my name on it, it's going to be good. And people, their customer base is recognized that almost brand within a brand, and they really excel at that. There's several artisans that they feature in their catalog yearly, ongoing, that they've developed this aesthetic that makes that book look the way that it does. And Orvis recognizes that, their customer recognizes that. And to me, that's the best marketing someone you can have, is third person. When somebody else is not only paying, but they're tooting your horn, you're not doing it on your own, it's far more powerful than me just taking out an ad, if that makes sense.
100%, right? It's not all about the money. You've talked repeatedly about how the money is what drives the business, and you deal with that side, but wealth isn't some way far out there number. You don't need billions of dollars. To you, the greatest thing about wealth is family and time and
Correct.
Doing what you love.
Absolutely. I mean, that is, you know, I'll run into folks and they'll say, oh, we just love your success. I go, what do you mean by that? I'm really genuinely curious. Like, what do you mean by that? Because there's really no getting wealthy with capital that you can own boats and do all these things when you do this kind of work. It's probably not going to happen, and very rare if it does. And I think for those that want that, they can go for it and maybe achieve it. That's not my underlying motive. My underlying motive is, if I can keep the bills paid, keep a roof over our heads, and fed well, and travel on occasion, and go fishing here and there, and come into this place and make things that people are going to cherish for the rest of their lives, I'm the wealthiest guy on earth, you know? And my kid's up in the office watching TV or overlooking us doing work down here. That's pretty cool. Not a lot of workplaces do you get that opportunity. And I wouldn't change it for the world.
That's fantastic, Al. Al, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Everybody, can't thank you enough for joining us today. Please like us down below. Catch us on YouTube, on Facebook, Instagram, all the social media avenues. Also on Silverman Law Office, on our website at mttaxlaw.com. Geez, wow, what an unbelievable interview. I can't, A, thank Al enough. B, I hope you folks even got 1/10 of what I got out of this today, because I also got some background info on Al earlier. This is just an amazing interview. Boy, Joel Silverman here. We're just connecting small town business people across this great country of ours. Al, again, thank you.
You're welcome.
What an amazing thing you do.
Appreciate you being here. Appreciate it.